Hello, I'm Dr. Wendy Rowley, and this is the series called The Human Potential. It's about the next 200 years and the potentials coming in that are out in the field that we might align to. When you have challenging times on the earth, such as we're in, and you look at the news out there, it's all very challenging. It's negative a little bit. It's only the murders and the wars and the things that are not that uplifting. I actually know, including myself, except for periodically, many people who have stopped reading the newspapers and stopped listening to the news. And the number one comment they all make is, I'm so much happier. And it is true. If it's really important, people will talk about it, and you can always tune in. But it would be really nice if we had something positive once in a while, because there are good things happening in the world. And it's very important to have a perspective of something uplifting, hopeful, positive, and something that just makes you smile, makes your heart expand, that makes you realize it's okay. Humans are doing okay. And so this series, I believe, is in that spirit. It's about opening up to potentials of maybe greater joy, peace on earth, an understanding of maybe ways we can do some things to bring about some of these things. There was a little hint by Allaenea, the Pleiadian channel, the guide I work with, who is basically here to clear the human crystalline grid of help the humans clear their human crystalline grid, which they were part of the grid builder camp, the group that came that she was with, and they've been here obviously a long time. And so she had said there would be some suggestions and some ideas. So let's see what unfolds in this series. Like I'm starting to come out of the closet a little bit more. I never really know what's going to happen sometimes, including with healing, which is one of the delights I've liked about healing, that you learn something, you help someone, you never know what's going to happen. And you get to sit in that juicy energy of spirit with someone where you both just say, hey, life is messy, and I believe we can heal this. And let's plug it up to soul and the supreme being and see if we can't get a little healing here, because that is something that is within our nature, and nothing like validation of your own spirit to realize that you are a spirit in a body. All right, I'm going to get out of the way and let's see what Allaenea has. We know everyone's busy. There's a lot to do, and we'll try to keep these short and sweet. Okay. Oh, good day to you, dearest beings of light. I am Allaenea of Cosmic Service, a Pleiadian Mother of Sound. For those of you who have not tuned into the heart channels or the ancestral healing for women, you might not be familiar with the idea of channeling. You might not understand, what does it mean when a Pleiadian is talking through someone? There are, on the energy fields of the earth, many, many layers and dimensions. And there are many places of creation in the layers of these dimensions. We work at a layer of creation in cooperation with angels, archangels, and arachai that had a lot to do with creating humans and human souls, and working with the directives or plans of the creator through galaxies and planetary systems. And there is, it's true, a system to all of this. And that concept is the idea of bringing spiritualization into matter to some degree, as well as evolving the creator's concept of love throughout its creation. What a thought. What could that possibly mean? You'll know in a couple million years. I'm sorry to hate to be a teaser, but for right now, that understanding is a little hard to explain. This series, The Human Potential, is kind of a segue to that understanding. It is a way for you to have understanding of this system to a little bit more of a degree. So when I said, what does it mean, a Pleiadian speaking through a human? And what do beings from other planets have to do with being on this planet? And why would they be here? There are a few people on the web who brought forward information in this regard. This one is familiar with Lee Carroll. There's 3 or 4 others right on YouTube who have brought forward original information regarding this. And it's about the laying of grids on the earth that humans can align to. And maybe one has your Akash, your own creation in it, whether it was light filled or not. And the other is a model of an ideal. And anyone who has laid some benevolence within that ideal on the earth, at the lower level of that grid lays human information. But on the higher level of that grid, there is international galactic information. And we're going to say it in that way because it's all the planets that have gone through what you've gone through that have had the opportunity to become an enlightened planet. And in which case they can travel through space. We do so without needing a spaceship. We do it with our consciousness, for we are balls of consciousness. As this one sees, even humans are that. She sees in healing that humans, when they're out of their body between worlds or sleeping or at death, become a ball of consciousness. It is the way it is when you are not incarnate in a body as you are now. So there are many grids, many understandings. As we said, there's over 600 grids on the earth at this time, and that is not including the grid for each species of animal or plant, because every living thing created has its own grid of information and evolution. And sometimes you think a species disappears. It doesn't. It just goes into its grid and it evolves out in a different form. So you might think a bird species has disappeared and is no longer in the earth, or some species of animal is becoming extinct and you have to save it. Unless humans completely wiped it out on their own, it's an evolutionary process of the creator's design of creation. And that's an interesting idea too. So the higher level of that grid that has the international galactic is it has pieces of information in it, not just the Pleiadians. We're the time capsule ones, which I'll explain in a minute, but and that was for this one, but the all those planets that have brought forward information through the chain as each planet then drops it down, parts of it to the next one. And the most recent planet that passes its information along, the newer one, puts its information in great detail on a level between the human crystalline grid of the Kosh, of the karma, and the high grid of the creational blueprint, if you want to call that. Some people call it the master grid or the Christ grid. That can be thought of as the lower layer that humans have put their own evolutionary benevolent energy into when they become enlightened, some of the masters on the earth, for instance. But there's an interim grid. And on that interim grid, it's like a jump preview to get to that higher grid where there's that higher information of intergalactic, international information. And so the interim grid has all of our detail on it. And that detail is solutions, inventions, understanding, abilities to create something new, think of a new way of creating in consciousness, seeing something in a new way, seeing science, new science. There's a lot of things on there. And that's where we laid our information of what we did to get from the point you are now, millions of years into the future when we became enlightened. And when your planetary system is matured, you gather up that information and you lay it on a grid that you set up on a next planet where another group of souls will come in, and maybe you're doing a job like we are. And this is how we were taught. This is how those before us were taught. And it's a chain of creation that goes through. And so you will be the aliens on the next planet, if you can think of it that way. A strange and heady thought. So, what we wish to have you have understanding of is that this is an intro to the human potential, and to give you an idea what will be in the series so you can decide if it's something that will interest you. So, what we're going to bring forward is information that are in the potentials of your own human Akashic field at the higher level. Because as the Akash transforms and becomes light field in a human, it gets a connection to the interim grid. And then from there to the high master Christ grid. It's an easy way to say it. And so in that creation at the high Akash, there is evolutionary potentials that can be read. And so we can read your human species potentials for the next 200 years. So we're going to give you some of that information. We're going to give you some ideas of some solutions that are actually in those time capsules, so that you have some ideas of something hopeful that could come to pass. And we will bridge those based on what's in the potentials of the human upper Akashic grid of potentials that most likely will happen, so that you have a familiarity when you are reborn of going like, oh yeah, I know that. And that's helpful for evolution. We're going to sit forward more and more as the sun comes around, so you're not blinded by this. This one loves natural light. Okay, so that's why you're seeing this light dodging here. There's a skylight above. All right, so, and then the third thing we're going to do is we're going to give some pre-ideas of things that you might do in meditation and in your spiritual prayer and your spiritual visualization to help align and bring in these things as humans. For you are creating in every moment of your waking life, as well as in your sleeping life. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And that will be this human potential series. And it'll be, I think it's approximately 12, we had said. And so you will have that in 3 different sections. We will start with the human potential. So in the next 3 sessions, we will speak about potentials from your higher Akashic field of things that you are already, as a soul group on a planet, planning to bring forward. We hope that you will enjoy this. And thank you for listening. You are dearly loved. Expect benevolence in all you do, and we bid you adieu. Peace be with you. All right. I'm back, and I had no idea what this was about. I am looking forward to it, just I hope like you are, and I'll see you in episode 2. Have a great time in between, and like, subscribe, check out the Wonder of Human Design website. If you're interested in the idea of group healing of the human consciousness grid, check out the peace interval. There's an email sign up there, so you can get emailed information about the online summits that are coming. And Heartfield Series episode 16, there was a plan laid out that I had no idea about. I sort of had a hint, but that was quite a bit more detail. And you can hear some about the healing of the grids in that also. All right. See you in episode 2 of The Human Potential. This is Dr. Wendy Rowley, and thanks for listening.